Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another Chicago Bulls Chat with Sea UK. I'm your host, Neill, and Adam Silver has again revisited this conversation about opening the NBA up to Europe. What has he said? What do I think as a European Chicago Bulls fan? We're going to find out right after this.
It's time to see red.
Welcome back, and today I'm just going to make a short video just to talk a little bit about Adam Silver's latest revisiting of an NBA Europe. Now, my good friend Phil from Just Another Year Chicago Bulls has had his say on this, and it kind of made me want to bring it up and give a European Chicago Bulls fan perspective. With me living over here in Europe, in Ireland, covering things for all things Ireland and the UK for Chicago Bulls fans. I wanted to give a perspective from this side of the water. I know that this spurs a lot of anger amongst NBA fans in America, that Adam Silver seems to be leaning more and more heavily towards making the NBA more like a European soccer kind of league rather than the entity that it is and always has been. Now, I understand that things need to develop, and I understand that things need to expand and grow. The question is this the correct way to do it? Should basketball just be run like an American sport in the same way that American sports are all run in regards to leagues, divisions, conferences, and playoffs? Or should they start to branch out, playing against bigger, better, well, not better necessarily, but different types of players around the world, just to prove that the National Basketball League is a world championship? And that's one of the criticisms that the NBA tends to get on this side of the water. That the basketball league is considered a world championship when all they do is play against American teams and Canadian teams. So with that in mind, I'm coming at this from a slightly different angle than you might get from other podcasters and other creators talking about it in the States. That being said, I love the game of basketball. I am a basketball fan. I am a Chicago Bulls fan. And as far as I'm concerned, the NBA is the NBA. It doesn't need to branch out and try and include what is already a hectic NBA season of 82 games flying all around America and Canada to try and fit games in. This is grueling enough on the players. This is tiring enough on the players. We already see things that have had to be introduced into the game, like load management, as a result of how tiring and how exhausting and how much this leads to injury and concerns for the players and how they're going to develop. So that being said, I'm trying to look at the broad picture of this, right? As a European NBA fan, as a European Chicago Bulls fan, would I like the opportunity to see the Chicago Bulls potentially play somewhere between maybe 3 and 8 games in Europe? And there are talks of it being in London, which is just a quick flight away for me to get to London. The potential for this is that I will get to see NBA games. I will get to see the Chicago Bulls play on a regular occasion. You know, I could quite easily manage to fit it in around my schedule, my affordability, to be able to go over to England and see games that are being played over there, where my Chicago Bulls get to play against teams in England and Europe. And it's on paper, for me, this is the stuff of dreams, right? On paper. Realistically speaking, though, I'm not so sure this is a good idea. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, this is putting an awful lot on the players. This is putting an awful lot on organizations. And this is putting an awful lot on fans. You're asking American fans to either pay out big chunks of money to go and follow their American sport being played in a foreign country, or you're asking them to not attend these games and leave it for the European contingent to watch these games. He's even mentioned the possibility of an African team or teams and them being played around in Europe somewhere. I mean, yeah, I get it. I get that you want to expand this. I get that you want to make this more accessible to all. And I would love to be able to see the games, but this is not the way to do it, in my opinion. If you start trying to integrate some sort of a European faction of the NBA into the already existing NBA season, I mean, you've already got the League Cup as it is, right? The Emirates Cup. And that's enough of a challenge. That's kind of added additional games for some teams that progress. Why are you trying to make this more difficult on the players? Why are you trying to make this more grueling on the players? And I think what could end up happening in these situations is that some of the players that are of more importance to the team, like, your A players, they're going to be asked to stay home and rest. They're not going to be sent out on these long trips over to play in Europe, because the chances of you doing damage to your player, especially getting closer towards playoffs or League Cup finals, anything along those lines, you are essentially putting them at risk more and more, and putting the team's results and the team's success at risk as a result of this too. And I know there will be some sort of a lean from the league to make sure that these players do make the journey over. But I think it's going to get lost in the mud somewhere along the way. And we all know that we don't like when they start doing this load management. But I think this is absolutely going to push them further towards load management going forward if this was to become a reality. Now, it's not something that's going to be happening imminently. It is being spoken about for the future of the NBA. However, as a European NBA fan, I am not totally opposed to the idea of expanding to some extent, somehow, some way, right? And let me explain what I mean. Obviously, Adam Silver has a real draw to the way soccer is a global sport. And he is expecting basketball to come from the seed of the NBA and spread further somewhere along the lines of how soccer does it, right? So he's talking about expanding that league overseas. That's not the right way to do it. That's not the way soccer does it. Soccer has a World Cup. The basketball has a World Cup, right? It's not NBA, but the NBA teams, country, Canada and America, put a team forward for the basketball World Cup. So that already exists. You don't get to control that, Adam Silver, because that's already there. So you can't do that. But your real draw seems to be for Europe, because that's where there's a huge market and it's not a drastic distance away in order to be able to do this. So my point to you is, rather than trying to control some sort of a World Cup or trying to expand the NBA league as it is, why don't you look at something along the lines of, like in soccer, they do a Champions League. Now, the Champions League, the way that's run, is the top tier teams from every major soccer league around Europe plays in one big tournament against one another. And in some respects, it's almost given more credence in England and Great Britain than the actual Premiership. It's almost considered a higher achievement. And for that very reason, I think that's potentially the way to go. So maybe you could take the top team or teams from each conference or each division even, and get them together against the top teams from the UK, the top teams from Germany, from Italy, from all of the successful European countries, of which there are plenty. I mean, Germany just won big time, and you're looking at teams like this that can come together, that are going to have high quality players playing for their clubs, not playing for their countries, playing for their clubs. So the top teams then get to battle it out in a knockout style competition. So initially you have a league with like micro leagues where they play against each other, say 4 or 5 teams. And whoever the top 2 teams are from that then go through into a knockout style, playoff style kind of competition. It doesn't need to be best of 7. It doesn't need to be drawn out to that extent, but maybe a home and away or a best of 3 and knockout altogether, where it's just one win and go home, a win or go home, should I say. Something like that, all to play for. That could work. That could be exciting. And that could open up the possibility of expanding further within Europe. It can come from the seed of the NBA. It can be run by Adam Silver and others. It doesn't necessarily have to be trying to encroach on something that isn't there, that won't work, or something that is already there and you can't compete against it, because the World Cup is the World Cup, right? So anyway, this is my take on it. I'm not totally against the idea of trying to get NBA teams to play over outside of exhibition games, because we do get exhibition games dotted around the world globally. The last one was played in France. The next one is proposed to be played back again in London. So all these ideas work. They're there already. They're there in existence. But what Adam Silver is trying to do, I guess, is he's trying to provide competitive basketball, competitive games, rather than just exhibition matches. And that can be done. You just need to think a little bit more outside of the box without trying to own the whole box. This is the way I think about it. This is what I think. But please let me know in the comments what you think. Give us a like and a subscribe while you're there. That's my opinion as a European Chicago Bulls fan living in Europe who doesn't get to see many games. And if it does, it costs me an arm and a leg. So that's my take on it. I understand where Adam Silver's coming from, but he's getting it wrong. What do you think? Let me know. Until next time, wherever you are in the world, see red, bleed red. Go Bulls.